You're watching The Lookout, a production of the Division of World Languages and Cultural Studies here at Minot State University. I'm your host, Samuel Stinson, and on the program today we have Mary LaRouge. Mary LaRouge is Director of Writing at the Cleveland Institute of Music. She's an active member of the Conference on College Composition and Communication and its Environmental Special Interest Group, among other organizations. Her research lies at the intersection of the humanities and the sciences, looking for ways to improve communication between experts, policymakers, and the public. Together, Mary LaRouge and I co-edited a recent publication with Routledge called Embodied Environmental Risk in Technical Communication, Problems and Solutions Toward Social Sustainability. Mary LaRouge, thank you so much for being on the program today.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. I'm glad we have a chance to talk about this.
Yeah, we've been working on this now for about 2 years, so it's great to be able to kind of reflect and think back on some of the things that went into the project. So I'm going to ask some questions that we both know the answer to for the sake of the audience. So some questions that ask us both to reflect as well. So an edited collection is definitely a collaboration, a team project. So in addition to the two of us serving as editors, we had a group of contributors, we had editorial assistants at Routledge, we had publishing assistants. So keeping all of this in mind and the collaborative nature of the project, here's my first question. So tell the audience, how did this project that turned eventually into an edited collection, how did it originally start and who all was involved?
Well, I would say I would have to go all the way back to like 2019 at the SEAS conference that year, because that's where I first met Sweta Benaya. And we were both presenting our work at was either the Research Network Forum or the Qualitative Research Network. It was one of those events where we were both grad students and we were presenting the work that we were thinking of doing for our dissertation projects. And she was a bit further along, and our topics revolved around disaster rhetorics. And I was leaning towards looking at environmental issues and the problems that come with climate change. And she was looking at disasters kind of that came about because of climate change, the hurricane in Puerto Rico, and then the earthquake in Nepal. And so I think that you also had met her either that year or sometime previously to that. She came up with the idea of us coming together for the next SEAS conference and putting together a proposal for that one on this general theme. So I would say that's where we kind of all got together, and then we did put together a proposal for the next conference, but then that got COVIDed, right? That's the one that went virtual. And unfortunately, like it still happened. And we were working with, we also had Elizabeth Ferguson and Elizabeth Cosby. Liz Cosby was on our panel. So right now it feels like a long time ago, but that's kind of how we met at the beginning and started talking about doing research and projects together.
If I remember correctly, I met Sweta via Twitter, actually via the SEAS Twitter. I was just looking out in the threads one day, going through and looking for topics, and I happened to see a post I believe Sweta had posted about a follow-up to that conference and some thoughts as to a proposal, and said, well, who would like to put together a panel? And I saw that. I said, yeah, that's definitely up my alley. I'm interested in that.
Yeah, maybe I seem to remember that too, that she put out a call for people who would be interested in proposing with us. So yeah, that was kind of how we all got together. And then we started talking about doing an edited collection after that conference. Was it? Yeah. And we were all kind of, that was when COVID was really hitting and you were starting to be stuck at home and not being able to be face to face with so many people. So the thought of doing an edited collection was was really exciting, and it was a way to kind of keep in touch with each other more during that time. So we worked on it for a while, the three of us, right? You, me, and Sweta, coming up with a topic and talking with the publisher, because we thought, okay, what is the right venue for this publication? And the first one that came to mind was the ATTW series with Routledge, because they've published similar types of collections in the past. So we didn't know originally, like, if it would be disaster rhetorics or if it would be something different. So we kind of hammered out some ideas for that. And unfortunately, Sweta couldn't continue with us because she was finishing up her dissertation and also starting a new job. So then we continued on with the project. But yeah, a lot, like, some of the ideas for the edited collection were coming from my dissertation work, studying environmental communication in regards to a wind farm proposed on Lake Erie. So I was looking at metaphor and came up with kind of started to think about how communication is always embodied by the way that we interact with environment. And so it kind of went from there, and through all of our discussions and putting together the proposal, came up with something really good. I think the publisher was very excited, right, when we talked. It was Theron Howard that we first talked with about it.
Well, I seem to remember that informed your chapter also, that you ended up writing and adapting for the collection itself. Right.
Yeah. My chapter is about that, and it discusses the findings from that study. And I'm still working on some parts of that now, but it gives you a pretty good idea of the findings from my dissertation work.
And my part of the edited collection ended up focusing, interestingly enough, on a set of conversations I had around COVID that showed up in about March 13th or so of 2020, about the time that it started to gain a lot of traction and media attention stateside. In fact, it's ironic. I was posting about the book on Facebook just the other day, and Facebook reminded me through its algorithm, by the way, March 13th, 2020, do you remember this post? And it was the Bergamo, Italy post that had been circulating. I thought how ironic that is, that almost 2 years to the day of seeing that post and it making such an impact in terms of the COVID discussion, that it would come full circle, as it were.
Yeah, I feel like the chapter that you added to the book was really necessary to get deep into that topic of the effect of COVID on the classroom and the learning experience for students. And I kept feeling like, as we were working on this collection during COVID time, just how ironic it was to be talking about embodied environmental risk while we were kind of living that risk during that time period. Right.
Oh, right. I think we even made a comment to that point at some point in the draft of the introduction, and we ended up taking that out.
Yeah.
Maybe it was too on the nose.
So well, do you remember at first we were concerned about possibly dating the book by talking about COVID, and also wondering if we should discuss it so much when it was just still happening, when it was still taking place.
But I did think that we were touching on themes related to risk and risk management, and that were essentially, I wouldn't say just timeless, but that transcend just this particular moment. And that connection also with climate change for me sealed that idea and sealed that connection.
Yeah, I would say so. I think that the first section of the book is really has to do more with COVID and those bodily, physical risks that we all face. And then the second and third sections of the book are more looking outward from there, environmental issues and issues that kind of deal with both parts, like the problems that affect both the human body and the Earth's body at the same time. So that was kind of the way that we decided to organize the chapters in the book as well. And you'll see how that makes sense reading through, if you do read through the book.
And that connects to what I'm going to ask next. So for the audience sake, one thing I ask Mary to do is prepare a list of 3 highlights from the process that we went through of developing and editing the collection together. And I've also prepared my own list of 3. So Mary, if you'd like to start, what is the first of your 3 highlights from this process?
I would say getting to talk with Beverly Sauer. That was like amazing to be able to work with her and discuss her previous work. It was really foundational for my scholarship, and so I was kind of starstruck getting to talk with her.
That was also on my list. Yeah.
She's an amazing woman, and I'm really grateful and that she was willing to include her chapter in this book and give the okay for us to do this work, based on much of the work that she had done on embodiment in gesture in the South African mines.
And almost every section, almost every contributor paid homage or made some sort of gesture toward, no pun intended, toward her work on embodied risk in her research.
Yeah.
All right. So what is your second highlight?
The second highlight from working on the collection was just getting the experience of working on such a large project with so many other authors. I had no idea that this kind of collection would actually entail so much work from us as editors and last for such a long time. But I think it really gave the opportunity to think in depth about this topic and learn about how other scholars were viewing the subject as well, coming from maybe different fields, even because we have researchers in hydrology and water resources, geology. We have authors from all over the place. So I think that was kind of cool to look at it from different viewpoints. And then the one chapter with the forest giants, it's so unique, and kind of the artistic view of what we are looking at in terms of technical communication, but it really adds to our full knowledge of the topic.
And I was absolutely, and I was very much thrilled in working with the visuals for that chapter also, to be able to look at those, because this is something that had never showed up on my radar before. I thought, wow, this is very fascinating, and the approach taken with that chapter too.
And that's why we have to include a photo, at least one photo of this art installation, so that you could see it in the book as you're reading about it.
My second highlight was watching the progress over time of the project as it developed, and thinking about that from the stage of the process-oriented pedagogy, seeing how things work in composition, in terms of theorizing how composition usually works, but seeing that unfold in terms of the collaboration was really interesting.
But we wanted to make it more, as accessible as possible for undergraduate students, even who are in their composition classes, and then also, but keep all the complexity that a researcher in the field would be looking for in these chapters. So I thought that was really important to do. We wanted to make it accessible as a textbook. So we included that problem solution section at the beginning of each chapter to describe exactly what the author is going to discuss in that part of the book.
And ultimately, that had an influence on what showed up in the subtitle of the book, Problems and Solutions.
Yes, yeah. So that went with the subtitle of the book, which I'm surprised it doesn't appear on the cover of the book, but I suppose that's okay. But that is the second part of the title.
As soon as you mentioned that, you're right. It shows up on the inside page. My page is disappearing a little bit in the image.
It was kind of a long title, yeah, to begin with, but that gives more definition to it. So, just and going through each of the chapters and thinking about it in terms of like, if I was like a freshman in college, would this information, would I be able to read through this okay and work with this or not? So there are some parts that we just decided to take out, and other parts that we had to kind of adjust the language a little bit to add the definitions. And then we added the questions at the end that can be used as discussion points or assignments. We have both at the end of each chapter. So are you planning to use the book then in future classes?
Yeah, I'm planning to use it in one of my first year comp courses. I think that it's highly relevant, highly timely, and accessible. So those are three things going for it. And yeah, I really think the themes of this collection speak well to what's going on now. So that timeliness, I think, just almost demands that I let students engage with the material and see what they think of it. So I'm very excited to see what the outcome of that's going to be.
Yeah, I've put together more of like a graduate class that I'm thinking of teaching eventually using this book as well. And other books that were kind of formative for putting this together. So I've been thinking about also how I could teach with it and in the future. That's kind of cool.
And I've always looked forward to collections like this, that if I were to use it in the classroom, I would say, well, what kind of projects can I put with this? What type of student responses? How could informal student writing work to really get students to engage with the material and learn with it? So any material, I think, that has that response pedagogically, I think, is a winner. And I think this book does qualify. I know I sound biased, of course, since it's our collection, but it definitely fits the bill for me there. So I'm going to ask you your third highlight. So what was your third highlight in the development of this process?
I guess that's my last like exciting thing was like finally now it's ready, like it's been published, and we can talk about it like this and look back on the and laugh about some of the more difficult parts of producing it.
It feels nice to hold a physical copy of it too. It's nice to see something that was a vision become reality.
Yeah, and I can hardly believe it. I mean, it's been a couple of years and so much effort put into it, and it's rewarding, I would say. Yeah.
And I'll mention that along with the highlights, one of the factors that we had in our discussion was that we had challenges along the way. And the one that I'd mentioned was losing, unfortunately, Balanle Olaniran along the way, who had taught at Texas Tech. And he had collaborated with Joseph Williams on a chapter, and the chapter is great. And Joseph Williams continued on and finalized and polished the chapter. And we dedicated the collection to the professor and his memory. And we just wanted to put that out there also because he played an instrumental role in the development of the project as well. So,
but it was wonderful that it's his co-author could continue with the chapter, and we've included it in the book.
So, Mary, final thoughts on the development of the process for this book. Takeaways that you think for students. What do you think students will really engage most with in this collection out of all the content that's here?
I think there are a number of chapters that deal specifically with the experience of students in the classroom, trying to continue doing their work despite all the other things going on in the world. And I think that students will understand that immediately and be able to work with that concept as they're thinking about embodied environmental risk and how we write about those issues. Really thinking critically about the kinds of messages that come from the university, how that affects their everyday lives.
Well, Mary LaRouge, thank you so much again for being on the program today and for talking about our joint experiences and developing this project. And I really appreciate everything that you've done in the project. And that just goes without saying that this project, of course, wouldn't exist without you. So thank you so much for being there and developing this together.
Thanks to you too. And thanks for inviting me on the program, and congratulations to you as well for completing this work.
Well, we've reached that point in the program now where we have to bid you adieu, but we again thank you for watching the Lookout podcast. Remember, we are here for you. And again, at the end of every episode, we like to say this: it's Minot State University. Be seen, be heard, be inspired. And thanks again for watching. Take care.
Bye.